Good day, this is Chief. As I said last week, I finally made it to Fort Riley, Kansas. I spent a week in processing, and then as I said, I met my Master Sergeant Tinsley and a Sergeant First Class, and I was going to the S-3 shop, so I was reporting to the 101st Military Intelligence Battalion, CEWI, Combat, Electronic Warfare, and Information. CEWI Battalion. As I said, I was going to the S-3 shop, but Chief, we always know G1, G2, G3, yeah, that's division level and above, and brigade level and below is S. So I went to an S-3 shop, which is operations and training. As I said, I think I started out at schools and the SQT. Now the SQT, I think I talked about in my Berlin days, and basically almost all the MOSs had one. Not everyone had an SQT test, and as I said, some people complained because, hey, that's 100 points that we don't get down at this level because I don't have an SQT. So that's why they eventually killed the SQTs, so everybody was fair across the board. And they also lowered the points back from, what, 998 down to 798, I think it was at that time. I was already long gone or out of the enlisted ranks by that time. And schools. So basically I did on-post schools and did the coordination for and tracked soldiers that were going to schools off-post. Most off-post schools, generally the soldier's got to be responsible to find the school he wants to go to that's related to his MOS to further his military education, and then he comes I think the schoolhouse contacts the unit, because back then they were paid for by unit funds, and it was up to the unit to decide if they had enough funds to send that particular soldier to that particular school. Now, being military intelligence, there were very few schools for me to go to, and most of the schools that I had the potential to go to were generally for the tactical or strategic level. So here I am in a tactical unit. Sure, I wanted to go to school, but hey, that school doesn't really benefit us, so we're not going to send you to that school. That's one of the bad things of being a tactical unit in MI, and you want to go to a school that's going to help you when you go to your next strategic assignment. But oh well, I digress. So I was doing a really good job. I mean, I didn't have to go to any on-post school to do that one, but I went to the chemical course, the NBC, nuclear, biological, and chemical class. That was fun because I did do a little bit of NBC. We had a guy that his MOS was NBC. I was just more or less his assistant and was just there in case he wasn't there to answer questions in the shop. The only job I did not do inside the S-3 shop was range. Setting up a range, ordering a range, procuring the ammunition, getting all that formed. That was a very complex operation to do, so I didn't do that one, not by choice. Plus, I didn't go to the armor school anyway. They didn't send me to that, but they sent me, like I said, in Berlin, we're just starting to get computers, so now we've got a couple computers. I don't remember what make or model they were. They were so basic. And but I had to go to a computer class, and one of the classes I went to was in September, and the fiscal year in the military is October, so I went to this computer class along with one of my captains to learn this system that was going to get replaced 1 October. We both did pretty good, and we were like, why are they still teaching this class if we're replacing this computer 1 October? But that's the way the military operates. You use what you got, and then 1 October rolls around, you got new stuff, then you got to start all over again and learning. Basically with the SQT test, I just tracked everybody that went down, took the test, got their scores, compiled their scores, gave an average, because once a year, twice a year, all the major commands have to go talk to the divisional commander and said, this is the status of my unit. I got so many people that qualify for the range. You know, I don't have anybody not qualified because they don't want to look bad in front of the general. My PT test is outstanding. My scores are really up high. And of course I had to compile all the SQT scores, so I did one day. Put them through the S1 shop, because that's where who the adjutant worked for the battalion commander. I was in a battalion, as I said, and I submitted him to the adjutant, real nice young lieutenant, made fun of him a lot. And he came back at me and he says, the colonel wants you to fudge these. I said, excuse me, sir? He says, yeah, he doesn't like the averages. And I said, I'm sorry, sir, that's what I got. And I'm like, okay. I could not believe it that I had to raise a few of them by 10 points. I could not believe that. But like I said, no colonel wants to look bad in front of the general or anything else like that. And also one of my functions while I was in the S-3 shop was to be a liaison. So I would get in the Humvee that I got issued a cargo Humvee and all the equipment that goes along with the Humvee. I also got an antenna. I got one system of the camouflage system, or one set of the camouflage system that I was responsible for. I had my own place in one of our multitude of storage shelters, so that was my space, my stuff. So every time I went out to the field, I would grab my camouflage, my antenna, my bag of, or my box of tools and whatever else I needed while I was out in the field. And I was out in the field almost once a month for a week, or sometimes less, depending on how well the exercise was going, and someone decided, we did really good, let's go home. That happened occasionally, not very often. But some of the times, I would be sitting in my office Friday afternoon. My captain would come at me and he goes, Sergeant? I go, yes, sir. He says, I already called. They're expecting you. Go do a check on your vehicle and get it signed out. We're going out to the field all next week. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the notice. He more or less has gotten the notice too. I could not believe how many drop of the hat notices we got to go out to the field. He was just as frustrated as I was. And like I said, I was going out once a month. Now we had 3 brigades there. We had the 1st Brigade, the 2nd Brigade, and we had the Aviation Brigade. Now the Aviation Brigade, I would never went out with them because they already had their own dedicated sergeant, but I had to fill in for her once. And I did say her once. Not her fault. She went out with her captain. We would set up our Humvee away from the command tent, the TOC. The Tactical Operations Center. We would have a desk inside there, because I had to have a desk for my captain to sit at inside the TOC, and then he would run a phone line out to me at the vehicle, where I had a 524 radio and I think it was a 442. It was just a receiver radio, and I had a 292 antenna that I could put up by myself. Now, you're not supposed to put up an antenna by yourself, but when you're a one-man or a one-enlisted, one-officer operation, you learn to do a lot of things on yourself, because he would go inside the TOC to carry his part, his desk, his radio, or his phone, the old cranky phone. I missed that. And while he was in there, I would set up our position. And he was amazed how fast I learned how to do that, because, I had to get taught all that stuff, because it's my first tactical assignment. And you get taught. I mean, once you know how to do it, you can just put it up as fast or as slow as you can. And I'd have free time on my hand because I worked for him and him alone. Sometimes sergeant majors would walk around the perimeter and they'd be like, you're not one of my soldiers. I'm like, no, Sergeant Major, I am not. I am here with the 101st MI Battalion. I am a liaison. Oh, so you don't work for me? I go, nope. said, I work for my captain. I said, he runs the inside, I run this vehicle here. And then he'd look, and I said, I got 2 radios I got to monitor. And he'd be like, okay, well then I can't use you for guard duty. I'm like, nope, I can't run radios in guard duty. That only came up occasionally. I had one sergeant major who really got mad because he couldn't use me for guard duty or KP one time. My captain had to put his foot down, and sergeant major says, no, this is my soldier. I don't have anybody else to help me. I sit in the tent, he sits out here, sergeant major. You can't use him. Sergeant major, of course, got gruff because, he got told no. Sergeant majors don't like to be told no, even by officers sometimes. So, like I said, once a month, sunshine, rain, snow, I was out in the field for a whole week. Come back dirty, have a week of MREs. Maybe we'd have a hot meal once a day. Maybe we wouldn't. So I got to eat a lot of MREs once a month. So that was fun. So I spent my time in the S-3 shop for 18 months. And I worked for 3 bosses. One re-enlisted me, and he was there a short time, and then another one came in, and he was gone like within a year, it seemed like. And then my last 6 months was with another. I was a captain promotable because he hadn't been promoted to major yet. And I got laid off, so to speak. We came out of the field, and we had squares in the motor pool at Fort Riley, Kansas. And on that square would sit our 577, our track command vehicle. And then we had the 3 cargo Humvees for each of the liaisons. And but we had to keep them clean. So when you come out of the field, of course, your vehicle's sometimes dirty and it drops dirt. So you had to sweep the square because the motor sergeant wanted a clean motor pool, even though you got wind that blows all kinds of crap through a motor field or motor yard, but whatever. So I was sitting there sweeping a square one time. We came out of the field. Like I said, I'd been there 18 months, and people had been there longer than me were still there. And like I said, this was the captain. I heard a voice behind me go, there comes a time when somebody's been in the shop too long. Didn't turn around. I go, yes, sir. I acknowledged him. I was still sweeping. And I said, where's this going, sir? He says, well, you're going to the ACE. We're going to transfer you to the ACE. I go, no, sir. I don't want to go to the ACE. I will go to Charlie Company. He says, why don't you want to go to the ACE? I said, sir, there's too many other sergeants there. I don't know about Charlie Company. I know there's a lot of specialists. Maybe I'll get something of leadership. Who knows? He goes, well, okay. So I went to Charlie Company instead. But the way he said it, he didn't snap me to attention, didn't make me turn around, because I heard him walk away. And that's how I got transferred from the S-3 shop to Charlie Company. And I don't know how much I can tell about Charlie Company. Like I said, my military intelligence career, I played on all kinds of things, all kinds of computers, did all kinds of work, but I can't tell any of it because when I first signed up, you can't talk about any of this for 25 years after you leave the service. Now it's live thanks to Snowden and a few others. But I was already out of the military before Snowden, but that's just a recent example of why we can't talk about this for life. Because, oh my God, yeah, you might reveal something. Well, if we ever fight Russia, I don't know. I could probably reveal something. They are smart, though. They still use typewriters. That lets you know some things. So that's it. Spent my time, 18 months, various functions. Got to enjoy myself. Did all kinds of paperwork. And had lots of fun. I really had lots of fun going to the field, because one of the officers I did work for was a lieutenant. And what's really strange is most of the officers I worked with were always prior enlisted. One of the captains I went to the field most of the time with was a prior submariner in the Navy who came over to the Army as an officer. The lieutenant I worked for was really fun because he was former enlisted, and he went from green to gold, and he knew some tricks. We had a tactical fax. One last story. We had a tactical fax. Big old machine. I can't even put my hands wide enough. And sending a fax over the radio. You would turn your fax on, they would turn their fax on, because they had to send, you had to receive. You would hear all this, like motors running, like, okay, waiting for the steam to pop out and everything else. Just kidding. But all of a sudden the fax would run and it would print a black page or a semi-black page, and then it would spit out the next page, which might be page 3 out of who knows how many, and then you might get page 2, then you might get page 5, and then it would stop, and then you'd be like, get over it again. You got to get on the radio, got to shut the fax off, got to get on the radio and say, hey, I need pages. How many pages were there supposed to be? I didn't get 1, which is the most important page half the time, and didn't get these pages. Can you resend? So then you set everything up. He knew how to disable it because he didn't like it any more than I did. I only took it a couple times, and when I finally went out with him, he says, Sergeant, I'm going to show you how to do this, but you didn't learn this from me. So he went inside the tactical fax. He hit something. It totally disabled it. It would turn on, but it would not function. They sent somebody out to come fix that exercise, and they couldn't get it to work. So they had to hand deliver all those wonderful orders that they wanted to fax to us. Tactical faxes, I'm so glad they're gone. And I'm so glad I only had to deal with them one time. So this is Chief signing out. I'm at Fort Riley, Kansas. Winter, spring, summer, fall, going to the field. Had all kinds of fun, ate all kinds of MREs. Sometimes my wife would get upset, sometimes she wouldn't, especially if the late Friday notices, because sometimes she'd be sitting at my desk waiting for me to get released to go home because she's already been released for the day, and the wonderful captain would go over and tell me, oh, I already called, they're waiting for you at the motor pool. Sign out your vehicle for next week. So this is Chief signing out. Like I said, freedom's not free. Thank a vet, hug a vet when you can. Treat a vet to something if you can, especially the Vietnam vets. That's all I gotta say. And this is Chief out.